Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. Every Saturday, we do our podcast, typically 10 or 11 in the morning. But welcome, everybody. Jim and I love talking sports, and we love and appreciate our audience. And I just wanted to say hello today. We're just going to mix it up, and I'm going to drive the bus, so to speak. And as our audience knows, honeymooners, you know how many times I've driven this bus up and down Madison Avenue. Okay.
In the snow and the sleet and the rain.
Safety awards, everything else. But as always, we start our show with the monologue, and today's show, or the monologue, sponsored by Coriano Trucking, our loyal sponsor, Mr. Guy Coriano, the toughest man who's ever played St. Joseph Regional High School football.
Number two.
Number two, neck collar, the whole thing. But if you want a delivery or you need any trucking services, Coriano Trucking is the way to go to get from point A to B. And I will turn over the monologue to my dear brother Jim, my partner, and my brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very nice intro, Steve. So the monologue this week, and listen, we can cover more in baseball because the World Series is underway.
It's the World Series.
However, in New York, the Yankee fans are all beside themselves, right? Should Aaron Boone be brought back? Should Brian Cashman be brought back? This is not at all on Aaron Boone. I mean, it's a 162 game season. They had what they thought was the players. They started out this season in an incredible run. But bottom line, it comes down to, and we've talked about it before, a team of 220 hitters, and nobody came up big in the playoffs. That's not on Aaron Boone. That's not on Brian Cashman. That's on the players. And it drives me crazy that Yankee fans are saying, oh my God. And Steve, maybe you and I just don't have that passion that we once had because we see these players, they're just injured all the time. Like Giancarlo Stanton, for God's sakes, he's the most impressive physical person in Major League Baseball, and he can't stay on the field. And so now you come up with, do we bring Aaron Judge back? It's not a case of money. Because Steve, you brought up the time, that now that Steve Cohen owns the Mets, that they'll win a World Series in the next 3 years. I'm not so sure. It's on these players. They don't stay on the field. They don't produce when it's necessary. And I don't, I'm saying bring back Aaron Boone and get rid of some of these other guys that don't play. You got these young kids like Peralta and Oswaldo Cabrera. Give these kids a chance. Something has to change. And Yankee fans, don't hang it on Boone or Cashman. That's my monologue for this week, because it's just unbelievable. Like another, and you and I, Steve, we went to a game 2 weeks ago, right? Because we wanted to see. It would have been a monumental game for us, right? We had great seats. And I've always said, unless somebody puts tickets on the table right in front of me, I'm not going to a game because it's too expensive. And we had free tickets, first row on third base side, and it was awesome. But I'm not going to go see these guys play and hit 220 and leave it all on the, another season. Let's see, let's rebuild. And whether it's Cashman or Boone, it doesn't really matter. And it's not a financial thing. The Yankees are a $10 billion, the most profitable sports franchise in the world. And that's my monologue this week. So I'm just a little frustrated, but I'm not crazy over it like some other Yankee fans.
Okay. So obviously the elephant in the room has been the New York Yankees and the horror show that happened in Houston and Yankee Stadium. 4-game sweep.
Get out the brooms.
Well, yeah. Well, the talk obviously of the week is fire Boone, fire Cashman, fire this, fire that.
Yep.
The Yankees are a disaster. Okay, I'm going to flat out say it. They are a disaster. They are the second most valuable behind the Dallas Cowboys in all of sports. Now, listen, Al Steinbrenner Well, they're valued at 7 point.
$8 billion.
Right. Okay. Now, Aaron Judge, this is not his fault. He had a great year. We've talked about this ad nauseum. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? The San Francisco Giants have already made a statement that they will not be outbid for Aaron Judge. Okay. Now, what's happened here? So, not only have we talked about what you said, batting 220, and we couldn't score a run if our life depended upon it, but what I was taken aback this week really was after they got swept, some of the Yankee players were, oh, we got booed. Oh, how could the home crowd boo Aaron? Oh, really? Anthony Rizzo has already opted out. Okay, he has a 2-year deal with an option to opt out. Anthony Rizzo's not coming back.
I think he's coming
He's
back.
not coming back because you know why? We're not going to give him more money. Okay, listen, Anthony Rizzo was not the problem here.
Not
Okay?
at all.
What the problem is talent. Okay, now Aaron Boone, Hal Steinbrenner has already said Aaron Boone is not the problem. All indications are he's coming back. And I've said this from day one. He signed a 3-year deal, which leads me to believe that if Steinbrenner is making the statement that Aaron Boone's coming back, Brian Cashman's coming back. Okay. But to your point, you put together a team, you're the New York Yankees, and you don't produce, I'm booing you as loudly as possible.
Steve, you know what drives me crazy is these guys miss games. When we look back, maybe we should go back to the old days of eating hot dogs, right? They get the most best physical training, healthy. I mean, Mickey Mantle, he missed games because he caught his foot on a sprinkler head in Yankee Stadium, which was insane. But Lou Gehrig played in 2,130 straight games, and Giancarlo Stanton can't stay on the field. They actually get injured during the national anthem, which is insane, right?
So here's the point. So, do the Yankees have to sign Aaron Judge? Yeah, from a PR standpoint, yes. But Aaron Judge deserves to be a free agent. He bet on himself and had
and he won.
Had a career year.
And he won.
Okay, now here's the argument about re-signing Aaron Judge.
Is he going to stay healthy?
He's going to be 31 years old.
Right.
Am I going to have to give him a 10? Say San Francisco gives him 10 years at 40 million.
Nobody's given 10 years. It's going to be 7 or 8 tops.
The San Francisco Giants are going to blow everybody out of the water.
Okay.
Watch. Now, from a business standpoint and building a team here, am I going to sign Aaron Judge? And this was an argument, and I'm not going to say this is my argument. I listened to somebody, and they made actually, my brother Chris said, I'm not signing him. He can go. Why? He's 31. He's had 2 healthy years. Okay. This could be an Albert Pujols situation by where, am I investing $400 million for 3 years, and say he breaks down at 34, 35, and I got to pay him, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Right. So if we resign Aaron Judge, and listen, I am in the camp of re-signing Aaron Judge. Why?
Me too.
Because the New York Yankees, like we opened the show with, are worth $7 billion. Okay. Number one. Number two, am I going to pay Aaron Judge, Gerrit Cole, and Giancarlo Stanton, who I'm stuck with regardless? We're paying him, these 3 guys, $100 million. I don't care one way or the other. You know why? Because it doesn't affect me one way or the other.
Me too.
Now, let's get to the talent on the field here. Okay. Aaron Boone, I am not throwing this on Aaron Boone. However, Aaron Boone has made some very questionable decisions.
Okay.
Now,
every manager does.
They do. But here's where he's getting thrown under the bus, which I think is unfair. Is the bullpen was depleted. We lost Michael King. We lost Clay Holmes for a while, this, that, and the other thing. But the argument, too, is you got Gerrit Cole, who we talked about, our ace, and he comes out to visit the mound. It's first and second, and Cole gives up like a bloop thing to right field. So his base is loaded. And what does Aaron Boone do? Comes back to the mound and takes our stud out. And who does he bring in? Lou Trevino. Yes, I never heard of Lou Trevino either, basically, until a month ago.
Okay.
These are questionable things. But the bullpen was depleted. So the Clark Schmitz thing in game 1, right, where Houston just teed off on him. You can't blame Aaron Boone for things like that.
You can't.
But let me finish too. You're going to bat Anthony Rizzo leadoff? Like questions like this are not helping the cause. Bottom line, let me finish. The New York Yankees, I don't know how they're going to fix this, but this is now we're mired in the second longest drought. Second longest drought from 1964 until they made the World Series in 76. But they are 1 year away from this. It's bad. It's very bad. Josh Donaldson, instead of releasing Gary Sanchez, now listen, I'm on record. I wanted Sanchez out of here. I didn't care what it cost. But another viewer made a good point. Why didn't we just release him? Why didn't we just release him? Now we're saddled with Josh Donaldson, who I puke every time he comes up to the plate.
But who are you going to
And
put
I'm
in
just
there,
going to
though?
finish on this. The New York Yankees are in big trouble. I don't see a quick fix.
And you keep bringing this up that the San Francisco Giants will not be outbid, but you're a big Steve Cohen guy, and nobody could outbid him.
Correct.
So is this actually now even a possibility? San Francisco Giants going to come in with a ridiculous, let's say $500 million contract,
but 400.
We're talking numbers that are just astronomical. What's the difference between 400 and 500 million dollars? But yeah, we would love for him to stay, but it's just like I said, don't hang this on Aaron Boone, hang it on the guys on the field. And you're right, it needs a whole revamping because it's not working. But the guys, the Donaldsons, you're right. If he's in a New York Yankee uniform next year, I mean, you're going to see.
He's going to be because we have no choice.
No,
He's
but
gonna
that's
be paid
impossible.
$25 million.
That's impossible that they could bring him back.
They are bringing him back. Well, and one other thing on the Yankees, and Aaron Hicks. Okay, we owe him for 4 more years. This guy is the biggest piece of garbage.
Right, but he's not making that kind of money.
But we're stuck with him. Who's going to trade for Aaron Hicks?
Nobody.
Steinbrenner needs to just release him, eat the
And
money.
eat the contract.
Then one last thing about Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen, because he is so rich, can play games here now. So if San Francisco offers, he can
top it.
Exactly. It's like bidding for a baseball card for a Mickey Mantle or a Honus Wagner.
But Steve, what we have seen in Major League Baseball, like this year, and we're going to talk about the World Series in just a second, obviously, but the Dodgers, they had record number of wins, and it just doesn't work out. I just don't see Steve Cohen paying when Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom miss 15, 20 starts a year from injuries, right? Whitey Ford never missed a start, right? I mean,
yeah, but we can't.
Why is it different?
Though?
Why
though? Do it anymore. Bigger, faster, stronger. That's it.
So that means they're more susceptible to injury.
Correct. And weightlifting, everything else. Yes.
I can't wrap my head
instead
around
of eating hot dogs and drinking beer like the guys did
and it worked.
Yeah, it most certainly did.
You think Yogi Berra ever saw a weight room or drinking?
So yes, that's why the
okay.
Now let's shift gears here. The World Series.
Yep.
Okay, the Philadelphia Phillies, folks. Okay, listen, we talked about this.
They're on a roll.
They fired Joe Girardi in the nick of time. Robbie Thompson did a great job. The Philadelphia Phillies, but getting to the point of that the Los Angeles Dodgers, who I said I thought would hands down win the World Series.
Me too.
It doesn't matter with this playoff format. You can win 110 games, folks, all you want.
Huh?
The Phillies now, here we are in year 1 of the new format, and the Phillies are in the World Series, and the Phillies just won an exciting 6-5 game 1 at Houston.
Right.
Okay, so is Cinderella about to lose her shoe? I don't know. I think Philly's looking good here.
And when we're talking about this, we're talking about the Astros and the Phillies. And unless you're from Houston or Texas, or you're from Philadelphia, this isn't really even intriguing to me. But you're right. The Philadelphia Phillies, with it, they got, they paid Bryce Harper, right? They paid JT Realmuto, who came up big last night.
Yeah.
And Justin Verlander, we see with the Astros, they're a great team. And he's swimming along through the first 4 innings, and then boom, gives up 5 runs. Who, by the way, and this, I talked about Justin Verlander last night. The reason I watched the game last night is because I wanted to watch a future Hall of Famer pitch, right? Sure, lock, Hall of Famer.
No,
he's got the worst.
You were looking for Kate Upton in the stand.
I don't know if that's still going on.
Oh, it is. I'm married, believe me.
Yeah, we'll chime in. We'll get Harvey Levin on the phone from TMZ, see if that's
Harvey.
But you know what? And if the Philadelphia Phillies pull this off, we're going to sit back and go, the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, the Braves, all those teams, who wins the World Series? The Phillies. And it's going to be like, hey, you go, oh, that wasn't a World Series championship team. I watched them play the Mets 20 times this year, and they probably lost 19 of them, right?
Last man standing.
Right. But this is a tough call to make, but they're on such a roll that it's not inconceivable. And listen, the Houston Astros, year after year after year, this guy Bregman, and he's a player. That guy is a player, and he comes up big. And there's Jeremy Pena. But you know what? Philadelphia is on such a roll. I'm not ruling it out. I mean, if we had to make a pick, I'm going to say, yeah, with Houston's track record in the playoffs and Philadelphia on this kind of roll, the Philadelphia Phillies could possibly be the World Series champion, while the Yankees and the Mets are sitting watching the game.
Right. So the bottom line here about Houston, folks, too. Okay. Yeah, we've crushed them. Cheating, all that stuff. However, Houston has done such a wonderful job. Now, don't get me wrong. 10 years ago, that when they were tanking, so to speak, they've drafted well. They got good people in the front office. When you can let Carlos Correa go out the door, and you can let Springer go to Toronto, and you got Pena and this Alvarez, who's a beast. He reminds me of Willie McCovey type of guy. Like it's just like beast. And they're pitching. They've retooled.
Good reference.
Okay, so we have to credit the Philadelphia Phillies. So again, it's a new playoff format. So the Phillies are on the verge of something.
But this is killing New York, watching the Philadelphia Phillies, who the Mets owned all year, and they could win the World Series.
That's it. So that's baseball, folks, and we'll cover that, the winter meetings after the World Series. But obviously next week, World Series will still be in full swing.
Yep.
So what I'd like to do is Saturday and segment over now to college football.
Yay.
Okay. And today we have a couple good games, but I would like to lead with this. Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban got into it in the offseason, folks. Texas A&M had the highest number one recruiting class in all the land coming in.
Yep.
They are 4-3. They're on a 3-game losing streak. Jimbo Fisher, who's not one of our favorites.
Steve, I don't think they're 4-3. I think they may even
3-4.
3-4.
They're 3-4. Excuse me. Yep. He has suspended 5 players. You know who these 5 players are? They're from the number one recruiting class. Okay, so there's big trouble in Texas A&M. Okay, and I couldn't be happier here. Okay, but my point is, I'm loving this. Okay, Jimbo Fisher. Texas A&M has a big game today. They could lose 4 in a row now. They're going to play Ole Miss. Okay, Lane Kiffin. He's coming off his first loss.
Yeah, they'll win today.
I don't think so. I think
they win today. They win.
So my point is, today's big games are Penn State is hosting Ohio State. I see this game similar to what Michigan did to Penn State. Ohio State's going to roll.
Yep.
And Syracuse plays Notre Dame. So what do you think of today?
And listen, the Syracuse Notre Dame game, we talked about this. Syracuse played Clemson last week. And again, I've always said they play Clemson, always play tough. Syracuse is having a great year. I'm a big Dino Beavers fan. And that's a great game. And I think Syracuse can actually pull this off today. I think Notre Dame is kind of in transition with the whole Marcus Freeman, transition from the Kelly era to him.
Yep.
But that's a great game. And of course, the world's largest cocktail party, Florida, Georgia.
Correct, which I was saving.
And it doesn't have that lore that we, normally, because Florida's not, they're kind of a hit or miss team. But Clemson, I'm not sure why they're up in the top 4. They haven't impressed me at all year long. Again.
Clemson, listen, I don't think Clemson's going to win the national championship, but if they don't lose, they're in position.
Okay.
Before.
Another good game today, though, and you and I, we all on board. I talked with a couple of my friends yesterday that listened to the show, and we were talking about Tennessee, right? The job Josh Heupel has done. They're playing Kentucky today, and I know it sounds like they should just absolutely roll them. I think that game's going to be a little bit closer than we think. But Tennessee and this kid Hooker has actually come. He's got to be considered in the Heisman Trophy race, right?
Absolutely.
Nobody even heard of him.
So there's two things I want to say. Back to the world's largest cocktail party. This may be the last time that there is the world's largest cocktail party.
Because of what? The restructuring
No,
of
Georgia and Florida are talking about a home and home. Okay, both teams get $2.9 million to play there. Okay,
Right, so you have a big cocktail party either in Georgia or Florida.
right. I mean, it's not a
So there'll be two.
it's not too far away. But the point is, Kirby Smart's lobbying for that. And why? Because it's more for recruiting that you can host your recruits, that type of thing. But I think this is one of those venues where, and the lease too. This game is really is contracted till next year. So my point, folks, is conceivably this may be like coming to an end.
Okay.
Back to the Heisman, Hendon Hooker. Okay, I did a little search this week. Who are the top guys right now contending for the Heisman?
Stroud.
Hendon Hooker from Tennessee by far is leading the pack. Number 2 is C.J. Stroud from Ohio State's playing well.
Bryce Young's
Bryce
still up
Young
there.
would probably be number 3, but Bryce Young is not winning the Heisman this year.
He's not.
Okay, which always gives credence back to who? Archie Griffin. When I thought Tim Tebow would win 2 in a row.
I did too. Good.
But okay,
Yep.
so that's how hard it is. I have Young at 3. Caleb Williams, the transfer from Oklahoma who went with Lincoln Riley to USC, is having a good year for them. To put him at 4.
Yep.
And then one running back in the nation is Blake Corum from Michigan. Right now, he's got 961 yards and 13 TDs. Blake Corum is in the discussion. So those are the top 5 contenders as of right now.
Very good. And there's another big game, right? Michigan State, the rivalry kind of thing. Mel Tucker, one of the top 4 highest paid coaches in the league, under 500 reckon. Michigan wins that going away today.
They absolutely should. So it's a good day for college football. Strap in, folks. Saturday, it's beautiful fall day. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
Okay, so while we're on football, let's go to the NFL.
Steve, one thing before we move off the NCAA. I saw this thing this morning, and we, both of you and I are Lee Corso fans, right? And it sounds like he's kind of in distress. I mean, I don't know how old is Lee Corso? 85?
87.
Right. So we wish him good luck because he's a staple on college football Saturday on ESPN, and we wish him the best.
No question. A lot of prayers for Coach Corso.
Yep.
Right? Loved game day with him.
Me
Right.
too.
It's been over 20 plus years.
Right.
Lee Corso's a good man. Great coach. Indiana, I believe, was his main job. He coached all over.
Illinois and Northern Illinois, and yeah.
I mean, just true and true
Yep.
football. Okay. Now let's go to the NFL, and we'll leave. Our local teams here: the New York Giants and the Jets. So let's start with the Giants. I will say this: we've been talking about Daniel Jones since he got drafted, and you have been in his corner from day one.
Thank you.
I'm starting to turn here, folks. And the reason is his play. And the reason his play is so good goes back to Brian Daboll.
100%.
Okay, so Daniel Jones in his defense hasn't had good coaching. He's had transition, this, that, and the other thing. I'm starting to become a believer. I'm not saying I'm giving him 7 years and
Understood.
$1 billion yet,
Understood.
but Daniel Jones has played very well and is instrumental in the Giants' success.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because it 100% is on Brian Daboll that he sees the talent in this kid. And again, the contract thing, let's get through, right? We're 6-1 right now. If we go 5-5 the rest of the way, we're in the playoffs, which nobody foresaw. And listen, I started a waiver a little bit that, either he's not going to be healthy, but Saquon Barkley, he is playing exactly how I thought he was going to play in this league. And I even said last year, if the Giants have to part ways with him, he's going to be a star in this league, whether it's for the Giants or not. But him coming together with Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale, it's all coming together. And it's great to see because we've been long-suffering fans in New York for this. And the Jets on the other side are doing the same kind of thing. I think the Giants are a little bit more farther along than the Jets. But if you're in New York, right, your Mets got tanked, the Yankees got tanked, and now you got the Jets and the Giants, and it's relevant football in New York now. And I'm happy for Daniel Jones because I always thought he had the talent. Yes, he's holding on to the ball now. He's making smarter decisions. Guys are dropping the balls on him. And we got rid of this guy, Kadarius Toney, who spends more time in the whirlpool than he does on a football field. So that's no big loss. But I think the Giants, if we come up on this trade deadline, Steve, I think they got to somehow go out and get a wide receiver to make this work for Daniel Jones.
Well, if there's one available, it'll be like a fifth, sixth round draft, that kind of. Kadarius Toney, okay, young Juka, okay, another gift from.
I don't even know what that means.
That's his alter ego rap name.
Oh.
This is another gift from Dave Gettleman, who spent the first round pick on him, the second of the first rounds. Okay, this guy is a piece of crap, like
a bust. Let's just call it a bust.
Let me finish. To me, this is a great sign for Giant fans. Why? Because Dable, the first day he came across this guy, wanted him nothing to do with him. Joe Shane, the general manager, to his credit, waited and waited to get a third round pick and a sixth round pick from the Kansas City Chiefs.
We'll take it
for this piece of crap. That, to me, that's a great sign, Giant fans, that you have two competent guys running this organization. Okay, I couldn't be happier for Giant fans to get rid of him. Let him take his act to Kansas City.
Yep.
And when he starts his act with Pat Mahomes and everybody else, let's see how far he lasts. Now let's switch to the New York Jets. I'm going to dispute what you just said. I think the Jets are slightly more ahead of the Giants right now because of the talent level. We talked about the Jets and knocking it out of the park with their draft. Sauce Gardner is the real deal. Player of the week.
They're talking about putting this guy in the Hall of Fame tomorrow.
No, they're not.
The guy's driving me crazy, by the way.
6 games.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's my point.
This guy's played very good football.
I'm not saying he's not good.
As advertised.
I just don't see the dominance like a Darrelle Revis kind of thing at this stage of his career.
I do. Okay. Zach Wilson does not have to be, throwing it 40 times a game for them to win. The Jets took a big hit. They beat Denver, which I called. But they did. Losing Breece Hall and Barrett Tucker are two significant injuries for them. But Joe Douglas is doing a great job as GM. He pounces against James Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars, who's had 18 touchdowns in 3 years. Granted, Etne has beaten him out at Jacksonville, but it's a shrewd move. I think the Jets have an absolute legitimate chance for the first time in probably 10 years tomorrow to beat the New England Patriots.
I think that wave is going to start. I think that wave's going to level off. I think. But you're right. You good call on the Broncos. That kind of thing. When you got this Russell Wilson, and we talked about this when they made the trade for Russell Wilson, and we're big Russell Wilson fans. It's just not working out there. It's kind of a mess in Denver, right?
It's an absolute mess.
And you see this, what's happening here, right? The decline of, is it Tom Brady's final year, right? Whatever. Matt Ryan, they make the decision to go with Sam Ehlinger, right? The changing of the guard as we normally talk about. But as far as the Jets go, and listen, I'll give this guy Saleh a little bit more credit than I was giving him before. I thought he was over his head, but he's got a lot of talent around him, and that's what's starting to make him look good.
So the Jets and Giants are trending up. It's about time. It's been a complete disaster for
10 years
fans.
Maybe more.
Okay, so you hit on a couple points. Brady, I'm loving it. Okay, I hope he has a miserable season. He should have stayed retired, in my opinion. And Matt Ryan getting benched for Sam Ehlinger for the Colts. For folks that don't know Sam Ehlinger, I'm happy for this kid. He's from Texas. I loved him at Texas.
Started a 4-year starter at Texas.
He has great numbers too, for over 11,000 yards at Texas.
Nope.
This kid deserves a chance. Matt Ryan, in my opinion, it's kind of like Tom Brady, but he's 37, 38.
End of the line. End of the line.
So the Colts, listen, Frank Reich has to do something here to save his job because
I know you were all in on Indianapolis.
I was
in
because they're
preseason.
talented with Jonathan Taylor and Leonard on defense and the way their season ended. But Frank Reich doesn't turn this around in the next few weeks, he's out. I'm telling you. So Matt Ryan is done. You can pencil him in for retirement at the end of the season.
Mhm.
And then real quick on the NFL, 2 renderings were offered this week on new stadiums. Tennessee and the Buffalo Bills. And the Tennessee rendering I saw looks fantastic. Fantastic.
They
And
built Taj Mahals and call them stadiums now. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
But here we are in New York saddle that exit 16W with this piece of crap that they put together to replace the old Giant Stadium with something worse.
maybe the ugliest looking stadium.
It
in
very
the
well
National
may be.
League.
Okay. And like we talked about, the Yankees being valued at billions and the Cowboys.
Yep.
Well, you know what, Mr. Mara, tear it out. As Ronald like, tear down this stadium and start from scratch. Because if you're charging the prices that you charge, and other NFL teams are building these beautiful stadiums. Our brother Tom went out to LA last year and took in a Charger game, places beyond the Vegas Stadium, beyond, and now you
But you
have
pay for this. You got to pay for it.
Jerry World, beyond, and now you have the Tennessee Titans and the Buffalo Bills going to spend over $1 billion, and the fans deserve this. Okay, so wake up, Mara, implode this piece of crap.
Let me just. You brought up the Buffalo Bills stadium.
We're New York,
and I've been to Buffalo Bills games. I've been going to Buffalo Bills games for literally 35 years. That stadium is actually beautiful. It's not. It doesn't look like the SoFi Stadium. But they put like $500 million in upgrades, and it's a beautiful venue. I just don't see why they need this $10 billion stadium to replace a stadium which has just great history. I don't know. I'm an old, softy when it comes to historical things, and I've been in that stadium. But I was there last year with my Niagara boys, saw the Patriots play, and it was a beautiful place, and it's way better than what you said, Steve. The new MetLife Stadium. It's unacceptable in today's day and age.
Right. So listen, folks. The NFL. We're going to get to our picks in a moment here.
Yep.
But
time for our picks.
Hey, another thing, storyline to watch is Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are getting worse and worse. I'm so sick of Aaron Rodgers, folks. I can't tell you.
Me too.
Cameron Poe, Nicolas Cage. Go choke on it, Aaron. I'm loving every minute of it. But let's get to our picks for today. Let's start with Jim. We do 3 picks each for you new audience members and our loyal listeners.
And we've had some good weeks. We've had some not so good weeks.
But the object is to have more good weeks than bad weeks.
Right.
Okay.
And so I'm going to go right now with one of my first picks is Carolina Panthers, and they're visiting Atlanta. And I gotta say, this guy Mariota, he's playing well. Carolina's kind of a mess. They got rid of their best player, so that's a kind of a slam dunk for me. And again, here's what we talked about. I don't know if Russell Wilson is playing this week or not playing. But Jacksonville, they're coming off, right? They lose to the Giants. Everyone says, "Oh, Trevor Lawrence is being this guy." I like Denver against Jacksonville in this game. That's my second pick. And my third pick is New Orleans hosting Las Vegas. And listen, one of my family members is a big-time Raiders fan. I'm just not sold on Derek Carr at all. But I can never, ever pick Andy Dalton as my starting quarterback. So I'm going with Las Vegas to win on the road.
Well, Andy Dalton threw 300-plus yards.
Exactly. He's had great games, but when it comes down to it, do you want Andy Dalton as your quarterback to get to the Super Bowl?
So is this not an indictment on a healthy Jameis Winston?
It's obviously an indictment on him.
Obviously. And trust me, folks that know me, I'm loving Loving every minute of it. Maxwell Smart.
Amen.
My picks are I'm going to actually go with I'm going to ride the New York Jets again. Okay. I think New England, they have a puncher's chance here of actually winning at home in front of the home base. New England, I'm not sold on this team at
Yeah,
all.
they're hurting. They're in trouble.
Right?
They're in trouble.
I'm going to take the Jets and riding the wave here. Zach Wilson needs to step up, especially with Brees Hall being hurt.
Yep.
Number one pick. Number two, I'm going to ride my Dallas Cowboys at home against the Bears. The Bears coming off an impressive victory at New England on Monday night. However, I think the Cowboys defense, I love the acquisition they made, as minor as it is. Jonathan Hankins, 10 years, original Giants first round pick or second round pick.
Ohio State guy.
Ohio State, 340, shoring up the defensive line. Not that he's starting, folks. It's just another big body for rotation.
Right.
Cowboys defense is playing good. I think Dak, has that week under his belt. Elliott's a little banged up, but Tony Pollard is more than capable.
They're one of the best teams in the NFC.
I'm going to go with them. And if you can raise it up just a little bit more, Mr. Monahan here.
I certainly shall. Go.
The other one I like very much is the Philadelphia Eagles to continue. They're at home. They're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers come in at 2-5. I think the Eagles will eventually. The Eagles are not going undefeated, folks, but I think they can get to 7-0. They're home. They're on a roll. They're coming off a bye week, so to speak. And Pittsburgh, I don't see them winning on the road.
This is kind of an unusual.
I'm going with the Eagles.
Okay, unusual for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? This is potentially Mike Tomlin's first losing season in what, like 12, 13 years?
It's going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be. So that's it for the NFL. Okay. Enjoy Sunday tomorrow. And, you have a couple bucks, throw them down. Okay. So now we're going to segue, folks. Lynch Toyota is one of our most loyal sponsors. Mike Lynch, if you need a Toyota, Lynch Toyota is the place to go.
Manchester, Connecticut.
And
Yep.
Mike has been a loyal sponsor, and we can't thank you enough, Mike.
Yep.
But unfortunately, or fortunately for our fan base, this is going to be our first commentary on the NBA. Because the NBA is now about 2 weeks into their season. And I'm going to lead with this. I'm loving that the LA Lakers
0-5.
0-5. Okay, Commissioner James and company.
Brooklyn Nets 1-4.
I'm loving every minute of it. The New York Knicks are actually off to a nice little start here, 3-1, 4-1, whatever they are. But Jalen Brunson is a nice player.
He's a player.
Okay,
He's a player.
But again, the Lakers 0-5, loving every minute of it. Real quick, some of the storylines here. We talked about James Harden going back to the Philadelphia 76ers, and they are off to a terrible start. I love this so much. You want to re-sign James Harden, this cancer? Well, here you go, folks. Enjoy it, Philly. Philly's off to a tough start. Harden is poisoned. So I don't like the Sixers to begin with, but watch the storyline as it's going to get worse, and it may cost Doc Rivers his job.
And by the way, with the Sixers, you're right. On that Sixers team, I mean, Joel Embiid, I know you're not a big fan of his.
I don't dislike
He had a great year last year.
Talented.
He is, but I can see him he's not starting the season like, this is a mission. He's no Giannis. The Bucks are rolling. That guy Giannis is a ball player. I'm not a huge fan of the NBA, but I love watching that guy play. He shows up every single night, and he's determined to win. And Embiid doesn't have that fire. And by the way, on the 76ers, James Harden and Joel Embiid are not even the two best players on the team. Tyrese Maxey is the best player on that team.
Yeah, but Tyrese Maxey's his development and growth is being stunted because they have Harden. I'm telling you, he's cancer, and it's bad in Philly.
Yep.
Now you mentioned Giannis, real quick. Off to who the leading scorers in 2 weeks, and there's leading scorers right now are throwing a lot of points in. Giannis number 1 at 36 points a game, and again it's 2 weeks, folks.
And there's no defense in the
number
NBA
2, Ja Morant, 35.3.
Yep.
Luka Doncic, Number 3, 34-7.
What a game he played against the Nets the
Number
other night.
4, Devin Booker, 32.5.
Yeah, usual suspects
and
here.
just giving you the top 5, and Jason Tatum coming in at 32.5.
Yeah.
And, we like to roll through the NBA as quickly as possible, but we have to tip our hat to Chris Paul. Chris Paul crossed 11,000 career assists. Now, that is a ton of assists. You know who's ahead of Chris Paul, folks?
John Stockton?
John Stockton. Chris Paul is not even going to sniff John Stockton.
Wow.
John Stockton, 15,806 assists, number 1. And number 2, that Chris Paul could eclipse and probably will, Jason Kidd.
Kidd, yeah.
12,091 assists.
Well, here's a little NBA note, which I was a little caught off guard. We talked about, the highest scoring, right? LeBron's going to pass Kareem this year, right? Regardless of whether they make the playoffs or not. But DeMar DeRozan just passed 20,000 career points. That blew me away. I mean, I didn't realize that this guy has been scoring at this pace for that kind of year. So he's one of the top 50 all-time players in the NBA to reach that milestone. I think that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. He's a good player. Question about it.
Yeah, but you kind of don't hear a lot about him, like because of the Hardens and the Irvings and the LeBrons.
DeMar DeRozan loves it. Loves it.
And he's got to have a ring, right? With San Antonio.
He's with
right?
Toronto.
Toronto, he's got a ring. No, not with San Antonio. I thought maybe
he may have. I mean, he's moved around constantly.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Producer, can you check if DeMar DeRozan has a ring, and with who? So that's the NBA, okay? And now let's transition to what we love is hockey, the NHL. I'm going to lead with this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Phil Kessel is the new Iron Man in the NHL.
990 consecutive games. And I remember Phil Kessel with his first game with Buffalo.
I remember Phil Kessel. I remember Phil Kessel in college in Minnesota. Okay.
So he's now the Lou Gehrig of hockey. Is that what we're?
Yes, he is. And you know what's so unique about this, folks? Doug Jarvis of the Montreal Canadiens, mainly, was the Iron Man for 35 years. No rings for DeMar DeRozan. Thank you.
Ooh.
Okay?
Not even in Toronto?
0 means 0, Jim.
Woo.
Okay. Now back to hockey. Doug Jarvis held the record as the Iron Man for 964 consecutive games played for 35 years.
And then Keith Yandel broke it or something.
Last year, Keith Yandel breaks it. 989, and Yandel retires. So here's Phil Kessel, less than a year later, breaking that record. And Phil Kessel is just going to keep going and going and going. It's similar to Cal Ripken passing Lou Gehrig, where Ripken will be more and more. But congratulations to Phil Kessel. That is a testament to not getting hurt in this violent game that we talk about all the time. It is
a violent game.
And Phil Kessel is the 12th American to score 400 goals. He just crossed that threshold. So Phil Kessel, in my opinion, no question, is going to the Hall of Fame. And congratulations to Phil Kessel. I think that's a great story.
Good.
Okay, one other thing I want to mention. Now, for our local Ranger fans, Islander fans, and our audience nationwide may not know this. The New York Rangers, every home game you go to, an incident happened in 1979 where Dennis Potvin, the Hall of Fame defenseman for the Islanders, crushes Ulf Nielsen, who was our Swedish star, and basically.
Him and Hedberg. Right? Yep.
But if you look at the video, folks, and I'm a diehard Ranger fan, and I chant Potvin sucks too.
It was a clean hit.
It was a clean hit, folks. But the point of bringing this up is, to Dennis Potvin's credit, the Islanders unveiled a marketing thing this week. Okay, you know what they're doing? Dennis Potvin is now selling Potvin socks for charity.
Okay,
So
then I'm okay with it.
Absolutely. So when you go to an Islander game, and Garvey, I believe, is an Islander fan.
Michael, he knows all.
I think this is great. So you can buy these socks, or you can go to the Islander game. It's outstanding. How great is this?
Good marketing.
Absolutely. So the point is, if you want to pay extra and you want to meet Dennis Potvin will be there. And folks, this is for charity. Don't get me wrong, Potvin is making some bucks on this. I think the marketing on this is outstanding. This is great. So look that up, folks. Potvin socks. Go buy 'em.
Very funny.
Okay.
We should get a piece of that for the plug.
Right. So that's the NHL. It's still a little early here
Good.
to really comment, but I wanted to bring up
Yep.
that. Okay. Now we're going to switch over to our notable passings.
How about first,
Or,
Dave? Random points of
Random
interest.
points of interest.
And
Okay.
I have one I could start off with
Right out.
because I couldn't. It was hard for me to believe this whole the refs getting Mike Evans's autograph after the game. How silly is that? I mean, for the refs to even ask the guy, he just comes off the field and they're asking him, "Can you sign this for my grandson or something?" Silly. They denied it that they were doing it. They were talking about the game or something. But can't you just wait until the cameras are off and Mike Evans takes a shower after the game? You need Mike Evans's autograph? I mean, they must be hawking Tom Brady left and right for his autograph, right? This is his last year. Silly.
Well, again, with DraftKings and legalized betting,
Ugh.
and listen, from our father's days and everything, it's fixed. It's fixed. This couldn't have been a worse look for the NFL that the refs.
Another bad optic
Mike Evans
for the
after
NFL.
losing, walking down the right to Tony. Hey, Mike, turns around.
Can you
Two
sign
refs.
this?
Okay. Now the NFL is denying it. Okay. Why are they denying it? Even though it's so transparent what happened, it's ludicrous that they're denying this happened. Okay. Now there is protocol in place, so they say, like you can get their autographs and all this, but you have to go. My people call your people.
Exactly, just like
But
us.
this is such a bad look, and again, it reeks of gambling. It reeks of when people lose
Thank
by
you.
half a point. And then what do you think the NFL did a day, 2 days later?
Thank you.
Oh, they weren't asking. Okay, bad luck. Bad luck.
Yep. One other thing, Steve, from a random point of interest. We follow the Mannings, or at least I don't. I don't watch this Manning podcast on Monday night. Never have, never will. But Arch Manning, right, #1 college recruit, actually going to start to enroll at Texas, so he's on board. Here's the question: what do you do with this kid, Quinn Evers, that you kind of invested? You know what happens with Quinn Evers? He goes somewhere else. Because you could just pack your bags and go somewhere else. So Arch Manning, he's going to Texas. He's going to be the quarterback, and Quinn Ewers will be the quarterback somewhere else.
There's no question that Quinn Ewers did not help his cause last week. I believe he was 19 for 49, something like that.
He's a freshman.
Okay. Yeah, he's a freshman. This is his third school or something, second.
Well, that's my point. Yeah.
He's going elsewhere. Now, Sarkisian made a boo-boo. Okay. The Eyes of Texas is the Texas song. Okay. And he didn't realize it. He fessed up to it.
He's a California guy.
But he fessed up to it. Okay. Hey, Steve, you're in Texas. Okay. If they're doing the Eyes of Texas, you don't miss that song ever again. Lesson learned.
Good point.
Okay. So outside of that, are there any other odd stories this week? I can't think of off the top of my head.
Listen, there's plenty of stuff for us to talk about. A couple things before we move on to our notable passings. My daughter had a birthday this week, and I wanted to wish her a very happy birthday. My daughter Danielle, and I got to see my grandson play last week, and I tell you, I love it. I love it. Just to see these guys running around, it's awesome. And someday, hopefully he goes to St. Joe's, which today's St. Joe's last home game, by the way, Steve. And we're teetering on a sub 500 season, but we talked about this competition in New Jersey. It's like I told you, I went to the Bergen Catholic game, saw two of the biggest high school football players I've ever seen play, and I've been to 1,000 games. So.
Okay, that's good. And I just want to make a shout out to our show's expanding, folks. We have loyal listeners from California, Florida to New York. Tony out in San Francisco area, Mike Garvey, our loyal listener down in Florida.
From the West Coast to the East Coast.
And folks, now we have a new listener in the DC area. that came across our show recently, and she loves it. Her name is Miriam. And Miriam, hello, and thank you so much for watching the show. We enjoy, new listeners, and thank you for your feedback.
Awesome.
Miriam listened to the show last week for the first time and sent just a glowing review, and we can't thank you enough.
Awesome.
So tell your friends and family, folks in DC.
Yep.
And I just wanted to shout out to Miriam and everybody down in DC.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Miriam. And listen, we always encourage our fans to send us an email at sportswithmanoandmano@gmail.com. We got a good response from, we posted Andrew Carolyn last week with Bert Ammerman, myself, and Jimmy Bedrado, former teammates. That's what sports is all about. I take more credence in going to a St. Joe's game than I do a Yankee game, by the way.
Yeah. So,
notable, Steve.
yeah. So we're going to lead with the killer. So, his death was announced premature, maybe 48 hours.
Yeah, that was a strange thing that it came out like it was fake news, and then 2 days later.
The killer was 87 years old.
I would have thought he was 97, by the way.
But listen, from a musical talent perspective, Jerry Lee Lewis is one of the was probably, he's one, I don't know who's left really of the icons, from the Little Richards, Elvises to, Buddy Guy to BB Kings.
He was certainly up there.
Jerry Lee Lewis was an absolute Hall of Famer musician.
Yep.
Jerry Lee Lewis, the person, is a different story.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have to bring this up, okay? Jerry Lee Lewis was a train wreck in his youth, okay? Married his 12-year-old, like all these. But we have to bring this up, okay? It doesn't diminish this guy's musical, influence and so on and so forth. But Jerry Lee Lewis has passed away at age of 87.
Great Balls of Fire. Right?
Great Balls of Fire. Dennis Quaid in the movie.
Nailed it, by the way.
But again, folks, Jerry Lee Lewis, from a musical perspective, is an absolute legend.
Killer.
And Keith Richards, who is near and dear to my heart.
Worshipped him.
Yep. And Eric Clapton, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So Jerry Lee Lewis, all right.
Big time.
Okay.
Here's another one, Steve. Somebody we know very well, historical collegiate head football coach Vince Dooley, right? Passed away, 90 years old. We remember him certainly as the head coach for the Herschel Walker 1980 Georgia National Championship team. He's been a fixture at that university since he got on campus until he passed away last week at 90 years old.
Yeah, class act. It's been a tough 2 weeks for Georgia. We talked about Charlie Tripp last week.
Yep.
At 100.
Yep.
Charlie Tripp, Hall of Famer, and Vince Dooley, Hall of Famer.
And it's so
he did it right. Vince Dooley's reign at Georgia was done right. His players revered him.
Yep.
And his coaching colleagues, and Vince Dooley is one of those guys that deserves a statue, which he has at Georgia. This guy is beloved, and so I knew he was,
What's so funny about
health.
Right? What's so funny about it? I actually just saw an interview with Vince Dooley, and I go, I can't believe Vince Dooley is still alive, 90 years old, and he was coherent. He was 90 years old, and then a week later he passes away. But him, that head coach, that Georgia team, we loved that. We were right. You and I were side by side watching these college football
and Georgia
national championship.
Georgia beat Pitt, and you know who the quarterback of Pitt was, folks?
Matt Cavanaugh.
Dan Marino.
That far back?
Matt Cavanaugh was the quarterback in '76.
Oh, when they won the national championship with Tony Dorsett. You're right.
Dan Marino was either a freshman, I think it was a sophomore. But Herschel Walker, folks, with Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson, and Earl Campbell. That's a debate for another day. But I'm just bringing this game up.
Yep.
Is where you have Dan Marino, a quarterback for Pitt, and Herschel Walker was the running back for Georgia. You talk about a game that we were so looking forward to see, and Georgia prevailed, and Vince Dooley,
And I believe they won that game. I think it was
Jackie Sherrill was the head coach of Pittsburgh.
It was the Sugar Bowl, I think.
Absolutely was.
And the quarterback of Georgia was
Buck Belue.
I wasn't throwing that out as if you wouldn't get it, but that's
And
good
this
trivia
wasn't
as well.
rehearsed, folks.
Yep. Excellent.
Excellent, Smithers. Excellent.
Well, listen, folks, again, we love doing the show. Our show is growing week after week, like Steve said. And Steve, I appreciate nice driving the bus today. Went smoothly. Rob, our producer behind the curtains, and we look forward to doing more and more stuff. And we'll be back here next week with
I'm
you.
so glad Dennis Hopper didn't get on the bus. And so he didn't really get on the bus, but Speed with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, we didn't have one of those incidents. But folks, can't thank you enough for your loyal listening.
Yep.
Like Jim said, the show's growing. We look forward to bigger, better things soon. And if you have an email, sportswithmano@gmail.com.
Yes, sir.
And enjoy your Saturday. It's an absolute beautiful fall day.
Yep.
And enjoy the St. Joe's game. Unfortunately, I can't make it today.
Thank you.
Say hello to all my fellow.
And I do have my St. Joe's alumni shirt on for the game. Of course.
And I'm wearing pink, folks, in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Very nice.
And
Good luck.
yeah, so we're good guys.
We're average guys.
Right.
The average show. But we'll see you guys next week because, this is what we do. We love it. And thanks for joining us. And thanks to all our loyal listeners.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you.
Have a good week.